I like to say. Today is Sunday, May 8, 2025, and the sun is in Gemini and the moon is in Scorpio, and this is your Astro Insights for the coming week. But we're going to start out by bringing us up to date since Monday of the previous week, so this past week. And when we started this week, Venus was in Aries and Mercury was in Gemini. But as of tonight, both planets will have shifted out of those fire or air signs and into earth or water signs. So Venus is in Taurus and Mercury is going to be in Cancer. So there's a sense of shifting energies that we have been in the midst of this week. And tomorrow is going to bring another big one, which we will talk about in just a minute. Before exiting Taurus, though, Venus first struck up a friendly conversation with Jupiter on this Wednesday, the 4th. This is a delightful party kind of vibe that encourages us to cut loose and laugh and relax a little. Every little thing is going to be all right. That's the vibration of this. The magic of Venus and Jupiter working together is that their vibrations are both inherently beneficial to us. It's as if the things you like, love, and can't get enough of could be put through a magical multiplication machine. Okay, so bounty and abundance, all you have to do is know what you want. Not so simple a thing all the time, but think about what you want, make yourself available to it, and it probably you can find a chance of it coming to you. So, however, this vibration, though it was strongest on Wednesday, it becomes more likely to yield positive results for us next week after both planets have moved into better signs for them. Like I said, Venus moved into Taurus this Thursday, where she is most opulent and right at home. And this Monday, Jupiter is going to move on into Cancer, where he is most likely to make it rain blessings and growth in our lives. So pace yourself, all right? You have a month to see what you can make of this fortunate and celebratory vibration that we are in the middle of just getting started with. And then another thing that happened this Thursday, the 5th, was that Mercury worked together with Mars in a cooperative interaction. Both planets were in comfortable signs and both were talking cooperatively. It's been a great time for cooking up plans of action or having impulsive actions that turn out well. I am an Aries and therefore a naturally very impulsive person. And I have learned that even when I know my impulsive actions are going to turn out well, it helps to take a beat and think about it first. Okay, so do try to think or look before you leap. But the actions you have an impulse to make, the thoughts that you have that say I could act now and make this happen, you're probably on the right track with those. And then on Friday the 6th, Mercury turned to work with Chiron in Aries, who is currently answering to Mars in Leo. That's a lot of jargon, but this gives these plans of action a dimension of problem solving, taking action to mend fences, healing from long-standing wounds. So if you feel that urge, you feel that impulse, you think, hey, I have a good idea as to how I can reconnect with this person or how I can resolve this conflict or heal myself of something, then, take a look into it, give it a beat, think about it, and then go ahead and take action. And then today is Sunday the 8th. Here we are this afternoon. Mercury will meet up in the sky with Jupiter, and we're going to get some blessings and good fortune infused into our thoughts and our words and our plans. And then a couple of hours later, after Mercury has met up with Jupiter at the end of Gemini, it's going to cross that line and move on from Gemini into Cancer. And that's where we are today with the sun in Gemini, the moon in Scorpio. Yes, here we are in the present moment. What do you think, Jennifer, so far?
It feels a little intense.
It is a little intense. There's a lot going on. There's a lot of sort of shifting vibrations going on. I have to say, I think it feels really positive for us to be moving out of air and fire vibrations for these 3 planets this week into water and earth vibrations, because we have so much going on in air and fire right now. It's really heated up. And we can see that on the television. We've been watching the stuff going on in LA the last couple of days We know that things have been getting heated up the world over, just in terms of conflict. So, we see that out in the world. We see the air and fire, the ideas that are sparking action in the world. And I think that's a really positive thing. And that is what we're shifting toward overall this year. However, with this fiery vibration, sometimes it's nice to have some water and earth come in and, help us ground out and help us cool down, help us find our calm, our zen, our center. So I'm looking forward to, at least a month of Venus in Taurus, just, hanging out, being her Empress self. And I'm looking forward to the next year of Jupiter being in Cancer. And I'm going to get to talk about that here in just a second. And I'm just pausing to see if you have anything to add. I don't really have to have you add anything.
No, I'm good. I'm just updating the chat on the astrology.
Beautiful, beautiful. So here we are, full moon in Sagittarius and Jupiter going into Cancer this week. Among many other things, there is lots of astrology for this week. So let's start with Monday the 9th. On Monday the 9th, man, we have a whole sort of cavalcade of things happen on Monday and Tuesday. But I want to bring home the fact that the big thing that's happening on Monday and Tuesday is Jupiter moving into Cancer. And Jupiter moving into Cancer, this is a really positive thing. I want to say Jupiter moving into Cancer, Jupiter in Cancer is I'm sorry, I got a little hung up there. It's very lucky. It's very much a good fortune kind of vibration. It increases the fluidity of stuff in our lives. Okay, so it helps us sort of to sort of take initiative based on the things that we feel, and acting from that gut impulse, we can really multiply our bounty. So Jupiter in Cancer is a really good sign. It starts off at the beginning of Jupiter in Cancer. Now Jupiter is in Cancer for a whole year, but it starts off at the beginning, where Jupiter is still in Gemini. It has just moved into Cancer, and it's squaring a couple of other things on the board. So it's a challenging kind of beginning for Jupiter in Cancer. We might not see things looking as good fortune as we think they should right away. It might take a week or two to get to that point. Okay. But once Jupiter is in Cancer, Venus is well in Taurus, and Mercury is also in Cancer, we're going to start having a lot more feeling conversations, a lot more emotional conversations, and a lot more conversations about what brings us grounding and stability, which I think is really going to be where our blessings are eventually multiplied. With that said, Jupiter in Cancer being a very positive thing, although it is square to Saturn and Neptune at the time that it goes into Cancer, and we'll see some economic challenges perhaps come up through at least the 24th of June. And that's based on reporting from Rick Levine. So Mercury is going to square Saturn tomorrow on Monday. Venus is squaring Pluto tomorrow on Monday. Mercury is squaring Neptune tomorrow on Monday. Those are a lot of squares. That's a lot of sort of tension. It's like something that makes you pause and figure out how you're going to get over an obstacle is what a square is. So, this is our sense of our communications and our sense of stability in the world. So something that is being said or something that we're hearing or our plan has to work with or work around some sort of substantial obstacle probably, or limitation. And then Venus being square with Pluto, Venus, am I not pausing for you? Do you need to chime in? Okay. Venus is squaring Pluto. That's, sort of what we like, love, and can't get enough of in a challenging kind of situation with like the big stuff that changes and the stuff that is behind and underneath what is apparent to us. Okay, so stuff that might come out, stuff that we might be sort of drawing out of the subconscious. What was that? It was secrets, and it was also betrayal. There's a sense of feeling betrayal with Venus squaring Pluto. So I want you to notice, the parts of your life where you're feeling any sense of betrayal or feeling as though things have gotten really unfair, because while Venus is all about that balance and fairness, Pluto tends to be a little not worried about what's fair. And then Mercury also squaring Neptune on Monday. That is another challenging kind of vibration, and it's about our thoughts and plans and sort of our greater sense of everything being one, our greater sense of spirituality and inclusion. So, I think that, Mercury squaring Saturn and Neptune, and they're basically they're about to be conjunct again. They're basically in the same place on the chart. Mercury squaring Saturn and Neptune together like that, they really represent principles of restriction and principle of expansion. So we're really we're struggling with our high ideals. I think we're struggling with what our high ideals are and the restrictions that we see in the world that don't represent our high ideals. And again, I'm seeing that on the news. I'm seeing that playing out in LA right now, as well as in many other parts of the world. So, we have these big hearts, and we want this very big inclusive idea of what it is to live in the United States or to live in the world at all. And there are all of these forces that are coming against that big idea, and they're trying to clamp down on us and separate us and make us sort of walled off and isolated. Don't allow yourself to become isolated, okay? That is the challenge of this time. And that is the challenge on Monday and Tuesday in your personal life, in your work life. When it comes to the plans that you're making, always have an exit strategy, I would say. Don't allow yourself to become isolated, especially at a time when you might be feeling some sense of confusion or betrayal. And then coming up on Tuesday, so that's all just Monday. That's a lot to be dealing with on Monday. We're on a struggle bus Monday, okay? I just want to be really clear about that. Lots of squares in the sky. So even though Jupiter moves on into Cancer, and that can bring a little bit more of a feeling of good fortune, a feeling of optimism, a feeling that good luck is coming our way, a Wheel of Fortune card kind of feeling. It doesn't mean that we're not struggling right now. We can have both. We can handle having both. In fact, it's the hope that we need when things are the most difficult, right? So then Tuesday, the 9th, Mercury is Mercury is going to have a talk with Pluto. Venus just had a talk with Pluto, still having a talk with Pluto. Mercury is going to have a talk with Pluto. So now we're going to be really discussing those things where we feel betrayed, or we're going to be discussing those things that are really hard for us to look at, hard for us to feel our way into, or hard for us to get logical about, right? And I'm talking about the stuff that's going on out in the world, but it might be stuff that's going on in our personal lives too. Sometimes we're afraid to take a hard look at something because we don't like what we're going to find out about ourselves, or we don't think we like what we're going to find out about ourselves. That is when it is the very most necessary to take that look, though. Okay, so that's my guidance for Mercury, quincunx Pluto on Tuesday. And then also on Tuesday, Mars is going to stack up in a trine with Chiron, which is really positive energy, actually. It is about our force of will, our will to act, our desire to make progress, our let's go and get it, which is Mars, in this sort of state of grace with what it is that we've been working on healing. What we've been working on healing is wounds of childhood, wounds that are old, wounds that are hard to heal, okay? Problems that are hard to solve in our own lives. And I'm just going to say for myself, because everybody has wounds from childhood. Unfortunately, very few of us get out of childhood unscathed. So I'm just going to say for myself, when I was a child, I had bullies. I had bullies, and I was such a sweet little tender thing. It was really easy to push my buttons. And so being such a sensitive kid, you know, other girls, definitely, usually girls, came after me, and they could be really unkind. And so that's something that I've been working on my whole life. You know, my relationships with girls and women, my relationships with humans in general, but especially with women, has been it's been very good, and there have been times when it's been very bad. And you know, women often, I'm not the only one, we have like a natural kind of mistrust of one another in this culture, you know, and we're made to sort of compete against one another. And so, you know, Chiron and Aries for me means you know, sort of dealing with those old long-standing rifts, mistaken ideas I have about other people who are actually a whole lot like me, and who are, you know, who are actually dealing with a lot of the same things that I'm dealing with. So, you know, Mars being in this state of grace of with Chiron, you know, I'm just going to say for me, because Mars rules my sun sign, this gives me like power. This gives me a sense of initiative, a sense of capability to pursue whatever kind of healing it is that I think is going to work to help me, you know, bond better with other human beings, and help me stop defending myself against bullying that I'm no longer really vulnerable to. Girl, she said a mouthful just then.
Yeah, I mean, that's the same kind of thing that we're, you know, like that I'm experiencing as well. I realized it, but not right away, but you know, reconnecting with my school friend from for many, many years, you know, harkens back to that Wednesday aspect. We actually met for lunch on Wednesday and
Mhm.
talked and laughed, and we looked up her astrology chart, and it makes sense because she has what, a Jupiter aspect, kind of like, so
Similar to yours,
like
yeah.
ours, mine, I don't know. Um, but yeah, so then it was kind of like we started talking about people who we didn't like, grudges that we held, things that people had done to us. And while it was fine to bring it back up as a reminder, it also really bothered me a lot. And I had to think about like why. And I was like, oh, because this is old stuff. And you know, I have to leave room for these people to be different people in the world now. And I also have to not treat them like the people they were back then.
Yeah.
Because as I found out, even just, you know, in a matter of like 10 years ago, I found out that there were at least one person going through the same exact family thing almost that I was going through. And sorry, airplane. Sorry, not sorry. We live by an airport. And so I can't imagine what these other people who were bullies, who were unkind, and I was a bully of sorts too. Like I bullied people who bullied my friends. So, you know, like kind of healing that within myself and not becoming that bully again, and also
Mhm.
allowing those other people who were bullies, you know, to be different people in the world. And I'll give
Yeah.
them chances. I just don't know how many chances you give, but you know, I think now is just like, I don't know. It's been so many years. It's just time to move along.
I think part of the challenge of healing all that old wounding from being bullied too was like how to become a person who really can't be bullied without becoming a bully,
Right.
right? Like
Mhm.
how to become, you know, kind of uh, protected, a little bit impermeable to just random opinions from random people coming at you, you know,
Right.
without putting on a really tough persona or getting mean with other people, right? It's not
Mhm.
always that the best defense is a good offense.
Mhm.
Sometimes it's that, you know, like, no, you know, you come to realize I don't really need to defend myself. There's nothing you can say about me, you know, like if it's true, then it's true, you know, and
Right.
and if it's not, then it's not, and that doesn't bother me because it's not about me. So,
Right. I feel like our generation, Gen X, I think that we were really bullied a lot by public figures, like teachers and police officers. And, like I hear people talking about curfews now, but I mean,
Yeah.
there were plenty of police officers to patrol up and down our streets in our small little town. And if I decided that at midnight I wanted to walk out on my front porch, there was somebody with a flashlight asking me where I was going. So, bullies are all over the place. And it's just kind of going back to that town, just trying to figure out that Chiron and Aries, like, how do you heal that? Like, how do you move forward from that? I just keep telling myself, like, maybe these people were going through way worse than I was going through, and I was really going through it. It just felt like all of us were going through it in our teenage years, right? But I really feel like we were. Our parents are boomers, and they didn't have it easy, so therefore they didn't give it to us.
They didn't make it easy for us.
Right?
Oh, they didn't make it easy for us.
Exactly. So, all right. That's what I have to say about that.
Okay. Well, then going into Wednesday, the 11th. Well, I want to say that on Monday and Tuesday, the moon is in Sagittarius. And the moon in Sagittarius culminates as a full moon in Sagittarius early Wednesday morning. Beautiful full moon. It really basically Tuesday night, okay, because it'll be about where I am. It's going to be about 2:44 in the morning on Wednesday. So if you want to stay up and see the actual full of the moon, I would stay up Tuesday night. And that full moon in Sagittarius is going to be delightful, very fiery, very hot, very hopeful, very ready to get out and explore. It's a very social kind of full moon. Full moons are a good time to socialize anyway. It's a time when we're celebrating our culminations for the month. We look back, we say, what have I accomplished in the past month? Well, I did this and I did this and I did this. Pat yourself on the back. You did it. Full moon, culmination. Here we are. And then after the full moon, we start to put it behind us. But I love the full moon in Sagittarius on the 11th. I'm seeing that 11 and I'm seeing that Sagittarius arrow, and it is reminding me of like an 8 of Wands. It feels like a full speed ahead kind of vibration. So whatever the frustrations might come in with Monday and Tuesday, we do have some grace coming in to Wednesday with that Mars trine to Chiron, and they're in fire signs. Okay, Mars is in Leo, Chiron is in Aries, Moon's going to be in Sagittarius. So that's a grand trine in fire signs. That's protection when you take action. That's protection when you follow your impulse. That is protection when you allow yourself to be inspired. So allow yourself to be inspired, okay, friends? Especially Tuesday night if you're staying up late for that full moon. Be careful about the fires, though. Full moon, I know I like to have a good full moon fire, and it might be kind of safe for us around here because it's been raining a lot. But if you like to have a fire for the full moon, you need to check with the local weather stations and see what your fire risk is. And that just came up, so I'm thinking to say it.
Yeah, I have a question. The grand trine and fire signs, when is that happening?
Oh, when does that happen? I wish I had my moon went into Sagittarius.
Tuesday while we're having the full moon, or Tuesday? Wait.
It's going to be, no, it's going to be really before the full moon on Tuesday evening. Okay. Basically, when Mars is trining Chiron, the moon is going to be at about the right position.
Okay.
It's going to move into position to grand trine with them, and then it's going to move out of position because remember, the moon moves really fast. It moves like 7 to 11 points a day.
Okay.
And there are 30 points in a sign, so.
Good to know. The more you know.
Yeah. So also on Wednesday, Mercury is going to have a cooperative conversation with Venus. We like this. Mercury freshly in Cancer, Venus freshly in Taurus. They're having a a sort of sweet, emotional, supportive, creative conversation. It could be sensual, it could be loving and kind. And it's really just about, you know, in our personal lives, sort of processing our relationships, whatever is going on in our relationships, and really doing that in a way that helps us make a plan to move forward. And you know, I love that they're in water and earth signs, like I said, because it's fire and air. Most of the chart is fire and air right now, so that to have those personal signs in water and earth signs just feels a little more cool, a little more grounded, a little more like, okay, we can slow down and follow through a little bit here. Okay. It doesn't have to be all initiative and all action. Once you take the initiative, once you get something started, you know, you might feel like you have to push and push and push and push and push hard. But at a certain point, when you get things underway, you get to ease off the gas a little bit, right? And just keep rolling forward, keep making progress. And then on Thursday, the moon moves into Capricorn that evening. Nope, on Wednesday, the moon moves into Capricorn that evening, and the moon will be in Capricorn on Wednesday the 11th, Thursday the 12th, Friday the 13th. Ooh, Friday the 13th, y'all. Right here in the end of June. No exact aspects that day. So I'm not really feeling like anything is, you know, anything is like at a boiling point on Friday the 13th. That's a good thing. We've had a few really positive things happen this week, and hopefully those squares, we're moving on from them so we can start to feel like that Capricorn energy of grounded initiative, of working toward our goals. And you think of Friday the 13th as the lucky thing that it is. I think a lot of us think of 13 as their lucky number. Raise your hand in the chat if you like the number 13. And you know, here's a little bit of lore for you. Part of the reason that 13 is a magical number, or to some like an unlucky number, is that in the 12 solar months of the year, there are 13 full moons. So that's that news for you.
And say that again. I want to type that in the chat.
Okay. In the 12 solar months of a year.
Yes.
There are 13 full moons.
Okay. Gotcha. Thank you.
Mm-hmm. So 13 lunar months in 12 solar months.
Gotcha.
Yeah.
Gotcha. All
and
right.
then on Saturday, the moon's going to move out of Capricorn and into Aquarius and make a bunch of aspects with other planets, including conjuncting Pluto that day. So I'm looking at Saturday as kind of an intense day, kind of a day where we're struggling to sort of get the recognition we desire, or the acknowledgement, or the remittance, or the regard, or the reciprocity we desire. I see a square with Venus there, you know, and that conjunction with Pluto can just make that feel really heavy and sort of sorrowful, or otherwise icky. But also there are a couple of really positive lunar aspects with Saturn and Neptune, which are combined at the beginning of Aries right now. So it's a mixed bag day for Saturday, but the moon is in Aquarius, and the moon in Aquarius really calls us out to seek our allies. It's pretty social, just like I said, the sun in Sagittarius is, but it's social and really constructive. Whereas Sagittarius is a little more of a celebratory vibe. Aquarius is social for the purpose of, getting ourselves together and making collective plans and collective acts. Okay, so moon in Aquarius, very social kind of vibe, very sort of intellectual. We don't feel quite maybe as emotionally attached to things as we used to. And especially because the moon is now on the waning side. We had that full moon on Wednesday the 11th. now at the 14th on Saturday, it's waning. And so, we're looking around us and seeing what we can let go, what isn't working for us. And again, we see that in the news. We're going to continue to see that in the news. I can't wait to see what happens in LA, to be honest with you.
So, not on that day. You need to be focused more on Washington, D.C. That's Donald Trump's birthday, and that's the military parade. Yeah,
The
that's a
military
big day.
parade.
Right. So this week is going to be full of Donald Trump's birthday, like whatever it is that makes him feel, his Leo self in the light. Like he's really going to be hard. He's going to be hardcore, but
He's gonna want
also,
to feel himself
he's
too.
also,
yeah. He's using that parade to make a big show of strength. And so he's going to have to show strength in LA as well. That's what I'm saying.
yeah. I mean, I mean, that really goes already to what's happening now that he called the National Guard into LA, like it's already a week ahead.
Yeah. And then on Sunday, the moon is going to stay in Aquarius, but Mars is going to go into a square position with Uranus. So that gives me vibrations of impulsive actions that are meant to create positive change. Again, squaring, that's a very look before you leap kind of vibration. It's very much like on Sunday, you can mess around and find out. Okay, you can mess around. You're definitely going to find out. Okay, so we might take impulsive actions really on Sunday. Really think before you leap is my guidance on that. Although I may not necessarily personally follow it because, impulses are what they are. But that vibration is going to hang with us through the end of this month. So, I was reminded yesterday that Mars is militant, okay? And Uranus is about change. It brings about abrupt change, like discovery, like aha moments. So, it might be one of those things where like we have this aha moment and then we just have to, get militant. And we do see that a lot in the world right now. And again, I keep coming back to the thing in LA. People are getting militant, okay? People are fighting back. And, I'm not saying whether that's good or bad. I'm just saying that's what's happening. There is conflict. Mars is militant. So Mars in a square attitude with Uranus, it's almost like a discovery, a piece of information, a surprise comes up and it just goads people to take actions that they might not normally take. And also on Sunday, there's a bigger square that is perfecting, and that is Jupiter square to Saturn. So with all of these lesser vibes of sort of expansion versus contraction, of sort of inclusion versus isolation, we get at the end of the week, like the larger vibration of that Jupiter, which is our greater benefic, and Saturn, which is our greater malefic, which is like our principle of expansion and our principle of contraction, sort of in a vibration of not necessarily conflict, but again, a bump in the road, an obstacle that we have to get around. Okay. And it's sort of like our sense of how big the world can be, how good things could be, meeting up with our very real, obvious sense of what is keeping us from having that. Okay. It's very frustrating kind of vibration because it's like, I know there's so much I can do, but this specific thing or this specific thing is in the way, and I'm going to have to do this work before I can do that work. And that's going on for a while. This is part of a larger Jupiter and Saturn square thing that's going on, but we're going to be dealing with this expansion and contraction stuff at least through the middle of July. So it's a bit of a hurry up and wait vibe as well. Okay. And I want to say that's appropriate here in the middle of the year of 2025, because 2025 has been all about like shifting from that water and earth into that fire and air. And then we're going to watch it all go back into water and earth. And then we're going to watch it go all back into fire and air over the next 6 to 8 months. And then we're going to be mostly fire and air. It's going to be all on like Donkey Kong. Okay. So when you get your chances to take a little rest, to take a little break, when it feels like things are good and light and you can take a deep breath, please do. If you get an opportunity to chill out and find your peace, find your center, find your grounding, find your Zen, definitely take them, because as we ease into the next year, things are going to get more active and we're not going to have as much of that luxury unless we build it into our ambitious schedules. And that is all of next week.
Okay. So I want to go back to the astrology that was happening last Wednesday, and you said that that was going to kind of be furthered. Is that just the Jupiter aspect? You know, like, what is there a specific thing that is going to be tied to next week?
Yeah,
Or
Venus is sextiling Jupiter, and Jupiter is doing a lot right now, okay? So Venus sextiling Jupiter started happening this past Wednesday. It's going to be with us through the 12th of June at least. So through this coming Thursday. And and these two being sextile as they're shifting out of those fire and air signs into the earth and water signs is going to bring us some really good, positive, good fortune vibrations, just in terms of like getting our needs and desires met and feeling like there's something bigger and better we can be, do, or have in the world.
right.
And then,
I just
as it comes in, so as it comes into next week, because that's what you were asking about, right? Where am I? With that full moon, what did I wanted to say about that? I don't remember now.
okay. What sign is the full moon in?
Sagittarius. Okay, yes, thank you. Thank you. So Jupiter rules Sagittarius, right? So
Okay.
all of this Venus and Jupiter stuff that's happening right now, especially the Jupiterian stuff that's happening right now, is being amplified by the full moon in Sagittarius.
Okay. Will you remind me what Jupiterian stuff means? What are those?
So in general, Jupiter is that one that really wants us to have big success in the world. So it's the
Right.
principle of expansion. It applies to higher education and travel and sort of esoteric sciences, or anything that you would, like imagine as something that is bigger and better for yourself.
Okay. Then I wanted to make a comment. I think it was on the weekend on Sunday or something. It's kind of like, well, first of all, my experience in Gemini season is definitely like I've had to do a lot of things double. Not only that, but I'm getting phone calls from the same person over and over again. I've been getting text messages with the same messages in them, like duplicate. I had somebody try to duplicate one of my accounts, like, and I'm being asked to duplicate all sorts of things for people. So it's been quite frustrating this Gemini season. I don't know if anybody else has been experiencing that, but I certainly have. And with that hurry up and wait aspect, I had some specific energy about that, and it it's kind of like signing up for new insurance, or having to go down to the DMV. And my guidance for you and my guidance for my whole life when I figured out this whole hurry up and wait thing, because that's always governmental red tape, or red tape that to be there, just making things harder, making you work for things that people feel like you should pay for. So, while it's sometimes very difficult to be patient during those times, please find ways to distract yourself, and don't let yourself go off course just because someone is intentionally trying to block you from getting or doing or saying that thing that you need to get, do, or say. And, like for me, when I go anywhere, I bring a book. So I have a book on my phone. I have an app that I get from, and just prepare to stay 2 times longer wherever it is that you're going for appointments and things. Like this weekend might be a little bit frustrating even going into that, And I don't know what the beginning of next week looks like, but your Monday might be, affected by that a little bit too. That energy is still going to be
Yeah.
tossed. So, just be patient and, trust that the timing is perfect and that rejection is protection. And it also gives you an opportunity to look things over again to make sure this is what you want. That
Hmm.
Saturn aspect is like, if you're looking at any contracts or anything, look at that. I feel that Scorpio moon is what I'm feeling, right? When's the Scorpio moon now? Is it today?
Yes. Yes.
All of
We're
the
in the Scorpio moon right now.
yeah, make sure if you're entering in any kind of contract, like if you feel intuitively that there's something off about it, there probably is. So you should look for it and ask the questions that you need in order to gain the information that you're wanting. And if you don't hear it, then just leave it alone and go on. Okay. But that's the kind of energy that I'm feeling from this week. And I do think it's going to be I think it's going to be, especially for our country with our president and everything that's going on. I think we're going to hear so much this week.
It's going to be a big week for